To me, mental health means it's more than just like mental health to me. It means like my well-being, not just like mentally, but also physically and emotionally and stuff like that. It's actually like taking into consideration the different pieces of myself and how that like makes me as a person, how it sets me apart from other people, but how it also makes me like similar to other people who may suffer from like different mental health issues like depression or anxiety or stuff like that. It's like it makes you different, but it also makes you like relate to other people in a way. So mental health to me is just like the different areas in my life where they come together and how they make me as a person, as a young professional and stuff like that. My first like recollection of having of struggling with my mental health was when my sister left for because I was born and raised in Jamaica, and my sister went to a high school where she left home, like she went to a boarding school. So I can remember like feeling very sad, and I got so withdrawn from classes where my school had to call my mom and ask if everything is okay at home. Like I wasn't eating, I wasn't like interacting or anything like that. And like as the years went by, I realized that I kind like looking back, I realized that I kind of struggled with my mental health because I am very like introverted and I don't really speak much unless like I need to. So I never really, and my mom was also at work. I grew up in a single parent household. So my mom being at work, my sister being at school, I never really had anyone to speak to. So I was always in like this state of depression, or I would get very anxious because my mind would wander off like 10 years, like, am I going to be successful in the next 10 years? Am I going to be as successful as my sister? Am I going to do well in classes and stuff like that? So I remember being like very anxious and having like really bad depression when I was growing up, to the point where I didn't really, at a point when I went like, I remember I was like 15, I didn't really see a future for myself. I didn't see myself like going into a career or going to college or anything like that, because I just felt as though like I didn't have any purpose. And then as I grew older and I moved here, I came from Jamaica to the US in 2016, and it was a whole different dynamic. I was out of my comfort zone completely. I had to make new friends, which was something that I was not very good at because, as I said, like I'm introverted. I'm not the person to go up and like just talk to someone like that. I was very timid at the time. So that also kind of sent me to depression. Even though I was now living with my sister, she was going to college, so she was barely like at home. My dad was always at work. My brother was always at school. My stepmom is at work. So there were times that I would come home from school and I was the only person in the house until like in the night, or until my brother comes home, because me and my brother like went to different schools, but we came home around the same time sometimes. But then my real issue with mental health really started when I was a freshman in college, where that's when my real isolation like really took place, because I was very stressed because I wasn't doing as well as I wanted to. And I was going through different routes in order to like ease that pain. Kind of like when I would feel depressed, I would either like sleep a lot, which kind of affected my academics, or I would eat a lot and that made me feel bad. And because of the way how I'm programmed or the way how I am, I never really thought of reaching out to a therapist. And I had a bad experience with a therapist when I was younger. So that kind of just threw me off. So my first year of college, I was really like in a rut. Like I was telling myself I didn't want to come to college. I didn't want to come to college. And then my second semester of my freshman year, I was like, Tanique, probably you should probably give it a try. And then my academics went right back up. I got hired as a resident assistant, and that kind of took a toll on me because I had issues with some residents. And that kind of really sent me into a deep depression my sophomore year, to the point where I felt like I didn't want to live anymore and I didn't have any purpose. But then I tried to talk to a therapist. So we have a therapist for my residence hall, and she kind of helped me, and she made me comfortable enough to speak to her and also to reach out to another therapist. Luckily, I was able to speak to a woman of color who understands what it's like to be a young Black professional, which was something that I kind of struggled with, being that I go to a predominantly white institution. Then COVID hit, and unlike other people, I know a lot of people struggle like during COVID kind of made me realize that there is more to me than just being the girl that has depression or the girl that gets anxious, or any kind of mental health issues that I was dealing with. So being in quarantine and being in isolation for those few months at home, I was forced to look into myself and be like, okay, Tanique, do you really want to die, or do you really just want to stop feeling like this? And I really just wanted to stop feeling like that. So I made a goal for myself that I'm going to go to therapy, and I'm going to stick through the therapy for one semester, and see what I could get. I wanted to get a proper diagnosis, in which I got, and that kind of helped me realize that, like, it's not so much of like me wanting to die. It's just me like not being able to process my emotions properly. So having a therapist kind of helped me a lot. They put me on medication. The medication wasn't the route for me, which, it probably is the route for someone else, but that kind of made me knew that, okay, well, there is help out there. And so that was my junior year. Basically, when I came back my junior year, I got a therapist, and working with him I ended up doing for the whole academic year. And that kind of put me in a really great headspace, where now I'm graduating a semester early. I'm beginning my grad school applications. I'm networking and stuff like that. So I went through a lot between the ages of like 15 to 20, but now I'm 21, and I feel like I'm doing way better than I was like 3-4 years ago, because I took it upon myself to get the help. And I know that it's kind of, being an RA, I know that it's difficult for some people to like take that initiative and be like, I want to get better. So that's kind of like what I want to do. I'm a psychology major. I'm getting my master's in social work. So that's kind of the route that I want to go in. So I understand that it's difficult, but I feel like if I could do it, if I can help one more person do it and help save one life, then I would have a purpose in life, which I didn't feel like I had a purpose before. But now that I like have certain positions that I can help people, I remember my sophomore year, I had a resident who, she was struggling with her mental health, and I understood where she was coming from. And just like her, just like myself, she felt like she was alone and she didn't have anyone. So talking to her and her telling me thank you, now I feel like I have a reason to live. Like I have like people I could come to, that kind of gave me like a purpose and in myself. And that's kind of what I want to do for like the rest of my life, is help people feel like they're not alone. I did go to therapy through my school, which was really good, being that I'm hours away from where I live, because I'm from the Bronx, New York. I go to school in SUNY Fredonia. So that was one like avenue that I explored, and that was very helpful. Another thing that I got that really helped me was also being an RA, even though like it's not necessarily like, oh, you're an RA, so you just write people up. Like getting those services, because as RAs we have to go through a week-long training before we could like start the semester. So getting those different resources that I could like give to other people kind of helped me as well, because I know that, okay, if I feel sad, I could call this crisis center. Or if I feel like I'm getting to that point where I no longer want to like, live, or I get really anxious or really depressed, I could reach out to the crisis center, or I could reach out to University Police, and they could come over and they could transfer me to a mental health, not transport me to somewhere if I need to, or something like that. So those resources kind of really helped me. My school has like a pause program where like if you're in a domestic violence relationship, you could go to that. You have like different ways you could like stop communicating with people. Like you have like a no contact order. If something happens to me on campus, I could get one of those and I don't have to deal with someone. So like those different resources on campus kind of really did help. I may not need them, but I know that they are there, and that kind of eases my mind of feeling like, oh, I'm alone, kind of. One of the biggest things that have to do with stigma is social media. I feel like people kind of glamorize having a mental illness. They glamorize when you go through a manic episode and you're for a week, you're so happy and you could do all of this, but nobody really talks about like that depressive episode that you go through where you feel super alone, where you don't feel like you want to live or anything like that. And then I feel like access to healthcare is also something that kind of stigmatizes mental health. Is like, oh, if you go to a mental hospital, that means you're crazy. Like nobody's gonna want to hire you. I know that was something that I struggled with, is that I felt like if I opened up about my mental health, that was going to affect my chances of getting a job in any area. So I feel like that's something that kind of affects people, is that if you speak up, there's going to be a repercussion, and you're probably not going to land a job where you want to, which I feel like is very discouraging, because as we know, like today's National Suicide Prevention Day, and like I was reading articles and that, and I'm like, there's so many people who really want help, but they simply refuse to get the help because they want to have a job or they want to have a normal life. I know that I want to work in child protective services. I know that if like there's like issues with mental health, you probably lose your child. So I know that's something that people will probably look into. Another big thing is in the Black community, mental health is often looked as something that we don't struggle with. Like you will tell your parents, oh, I feel depressed, and they're like, well, you can't be depressed, you're a child, you have no responsibilities, which is not true. Like there are multiple different ways where you can get depressed. And then I feel like another stigma is people attach, or people try to make mental illnesses look scary. Like if you tell someone, oh, you suffer from bipolar depression or you suffer from schizophrenia, they're like, oh my God, this person is crazy, which is not the case. It's not something that you can control. And one thing that I try to do, or like when people talk about stigma, and I hate using the word normal, but that's how like I could get it across, is that how we may see things as like a normal person, someone going through a depressive episode will not see that. So you will tell them, like someone will say, oh, they didn't take a shower when they were depressed. And people are like, it's a shower, take a shower. It's not that easy when you literally feel like you can't get out of bed, like you feel weighed down. So I feel like social media, trying to have a good job or good career kind of heightens that kind of stigma. And I feel like a way in which we can destigmatize it is talking about it even more. Like for instance, when Simone Biles came out and spoke about it, I know that may be encouraging to other people who are going through that. If they're like, okay, well, she could speak about it, she's going through it, so I could speak about it. And even this that we're doing with SUNY, other SUNY students can see that, okay, well, other people are going through this. This is not just me, especially freshmen who have not been on campus since I think like their sophomore year of high school, or probably their early junior year of high school, now transitioning into college. They could watch this video, or they could look at the SUNY blogs or whatever, and they can see that they're not struggling. There is help out there, and there are people out there who are willing to help them, navigate through their academics, through life. Services on campus, like my school, I know my school offers mental health, and a lot of schools offer mental health that is free and it's confidential. And I know that's something people may worry about, is that, okay, well, will my mom get called if I go in and tell them that I'm depressed, or will they call my dad, or will they kick me out of school? So like, I feel like having like talks like these kind of help destigmatize it, because they know that it's not a taboo topic. It's not, mental health doesn't break you. It makes you human just like everybody else. It doesn't matter your socioeconomic status. It doesn't matter what class you consider yourself in, your race, anything like that. Like everyone struggles, and it is okay to struggle, and it is okay to reach out for help, because help is there. People are there to help you at any given time, wherever you are. Because mental health is like an invisible disability, it's not something that people can see. Like you can't just look at someone and be like, oh yeah, this person is depressed. So I would ask them like how long they've been feeling like this, and what I try to do, or how I try to handle mental health issues, is I try to listen as much as possible. So I'll tell them, hey, like I'm here to listen. I may not have the answers, but I'm always here to listen. So I'd listen, and I'll try to, after the conversation, I try to make my mind as clear as possible. That way I'm listening to understand, and I'm not just listening just to like listen, which I feel like is a difference. So I try to listen and try to understand what they're saying, because some people, they just need someone to listen to them, while some people actually need like real help in terms of like, it needs to probably be hospitalized or something like that. I also try to not use my experiences unless like it's needed, just because I don't want it to feel like it's a pity party of, oh, you suffer with this, I suffer with this, and then we're just constantly going back and forth, or we're like trauma bonding, and we're just like in like the unhealthy cycle of, okay, you suffer from this mental health, I suffer from this mental health, and we're just gonna keep going back and forth. So I try to listen, understand. I try to try to talk to them about like at least one thing that they want to do. Like, what's one thing that you want to do? I try to give them the option of, okay, do you want to go to like a therapist? Do you want to go to a hospital? Like what is it that you want to do? Kind of just to give them that power back. I know that when you suffer from mental health, it may seem as if like your power is not like power like in literal sense, but like that independence or that freedom is taken from you, like that mental illness will take that from you or make it feel as if like you have nothing. So I try to give them that back in terms of like, what is it that you want to do? And then we could work from that. If needs be, I try to talk about like my experiences, or I try to talk about like other people's experiences. One thing I also like to do is I like to let people watch like TED Talks or stuff like that. And then I'm always offering to help someone go and get therapy. I have no problem walking like I do with my residents. As some, if you're scared to walk over, I have no problem walking over there. And I try to make myself as available as possible because I know that there may be people who won't want to speak about it like right there. Like they may be like, oh, like they say in the joking way, like, I I don't want to live, and you're just like, and what do you mean? And they probably won't speak about it. So I try to make myself as available as possible. And I try to just like find resources. I know that for every community, it is different to speak about mental health. Like I know, like as I spoke about in the Black community, it is not something that's openly talked about. And then when it is talked about, it's something that is looked like, oh, well, what do you mean you're depressed? You're like for instance, if you tell someone you're depressed, they're gonna be like, you're 21, you have no responsibilities, like you don't have no reason to be depressed, which is not true because as a 21-year-old, your whole future is ahead of you, and one thing could change your whole trajectory. So I try to look into their community. If there's like any web pages, any TED Talks, any like counselors, I try to match people up, or I try to help them match up with people in their own community because it is different for every community. It's different for the Black community, the white community, Hispanic community, Asian community, Native Americans. Like it's different. So I try to like just be as flexible as possible. I know that nothing with mental health is linear in terms of there's not a single path where everybody that's depressed goes through this. Everybody that's anxious goes through this. Anybody with schizophrenia goes through this. It is different. So I try to tailor like my advice or tailor my way of helping to that person specifically. One thing that I also do is I try not to take things personal. Like if I ask a question and they don't want to answer or they get upset, I try not to take it personal. And I try to give them back that power of, okay, well, this is your life. I'm just like here as a part of your support system, and I have no problem handing it off to somebody else because I don't know everything. I'm not a certified mental health professional, well, as yet. So I try to hand it off to someone, and it never goes below me. That's something that I learned as an RA. No information goes below me, so I don't talk about it even with your best friend, your parents. I always try to like keep it going up as possible. So I'll take to my RD, or I'll talk to someone in Res Life directly, or University Police if I have to. So like that's kind of how I deal with it. I try to make it as individual as possible and try not to sound as like a robot, like, oh, well, go get this, go get that. I try to make it personal and make myself like as personable as possible. A lot of times that I deal with mental health is through the Res Life, like as an RA. So another way that I approach that is I try to take away that position. So I tell them, don't look at me as your RA, look at me as just another person that's here. And as my friend, like if my friend is dealing with it, because I have friends that deal with it, I try to tell them, like, just look at me as your friend, like I'm your equal, like I'm just here to help you. And if I can't help you, then I'll try to find someone to help you. So like that's kind of how I go like about dealing with mental health, like my friends, peer, or acquaintances.